It has made me a better athlete, both mentally and physically.
All right, welcome back to the podcast. I am incredibly excited to have my friend Lisa Ryan on today. Lisa is she's just an amazing mom, first of all, and force in the pregnancy and postpartum community. And we connected via COVID, like so many. We've never met in person, but we've connected a lot and had some great client interactions. And just like, she's just a good human. I wanted to bring Lisa on to share her story and kind of what she's navigated as a mom, but then also kind of how she's brought that into her coaching experience. So thank you so much, Lisa, for coming on. Why don't you share just a little bit, like your down and dirty version of how you even got to be in this space?
Yeah. Thank you for having me, first of all. So yeah, I mean, I was a high school English teacher and totally changed my career because of what happened to me. I used to be, a competitive CrossFit athlete at a regional level back before my sons were born in like 2009, 10, 11, 12, 13 in time. And I, had my son and didn't know anything about diastasis, didn't know anything about anything. And, lost the weight about 7-8 months out postpartum and still had this belly and I didn't understand what was going on. I was just very, very confused. I just kept thinking, well, it's gotta be weight or it's my uterus still or
right.
I mean? Like, I just like looking back on it, it's so funny to think about, but it's just like, it's been months. I don't think your uterus is still, oh my gosh. It's funny now, not funny at the time.
We can laugh now.
So, and I remember someone had told me like to check for it. So of course I was just laying in bed. I'm like, well, I don't feel any holes. I'm good. Cause I wasn't doing it right. And then a little while later, I did do it right. And my whole hand sunk into my entire body. And then this is what started the panic. Right. And so then that was a traumatic journey. I couldn't find really good information. Once I got through all that, which took a while, that's when Brianna started her stuff. And we had connected before that, Brianna Battles and I, because she had a diastasis and a mutual friend connected us. And so these random strangers are texting about random things. Wow. And so then the rest is history, because then when I went for my second son, I had better information. And then that's when she started her coach's course. And then that's when I realized, oh my gosh, I need to now help other people. So like they don't have journeys like I did for so many years.
That's right. I forgot that you guys, your oldest, are they the same age?
No. Her oldest is a little bit older than mine.
Is Kate a little older? Yeah, I think he's like a year older. Yep. I forgot that you were OG on that.
I think they're both in second grade, but he's a little bit older age-wise. Yep. But the funny thing is, I lived in LA for those 5 years before moving back to Michigan. And then a mutual friend in LA messaged me because she knew Brianna. And she was like, hey, you should talk to this person because she also has diastasis. Because I posted on my personal page, like before I had a business page and all that stuff.
Right.
And then I just texted a complete stranger, hey, do you have this? What do you know? And then it's so crazy to think about because now look where she is and here we are and all the stuff. But like, that's how it started. And we were just talking to PTs, getting all this really bad advice.
Right?
So confused. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. But that goes to say how far people are willing to go at that point.
Yes.
To find information. And, I run into moms all the time. They're like, oh, well, I should have known. And I'm like, no. Like my youngest is 8 and there still wasn't stuff.
100%.
And your kids are even younger and there still wasn't stuff. So that's the thing I always want to bring across to people is like, this is still really, I know it doesn't seem new, but it kind of is.
It is 100%. So, yeah.
So at what point, and then when did you, and we all kind of, we know Anthony Lowe, like when did you connect with him and do his stuff?
This is such a great story too. So
because I love that picture of your belly on his head. That's just my favorite picture of you two together.
that he had that idea to make it funnier than, because that was not my idea. And I was like, oh my gosh.
I was gonna say it didn't seem like you, but like I know he rolls for
I
anything.
was just
So
like, let's with my belly. And then he's like, let's make it better. So
oh my God.
So with that, so it was really bad up to my second pregnancy. And then you know, I kind of had gotten back to the gym though. Felt okay, which was good, but I still didn't quite know what was going on. Going in my second pregnancy, knowing, okay, well, we'll see what happens now.
Right.
But went in with better information, so I at least was controlling what I could.
Right.
And then coming out of that, I finally found a very good PT, which I still see my clients do now. She's amazing, and
You
so
can use her name. That we let's look up names. Yeah.
Nancy Boyd. She's the best.
Awesome.
So anyway, so about 6 months out, I found her, and that it was like a whole different experience for me, because she was helping me in CrossFit, progressing back, because I had been kind of traumatized and very untrusting. So that was a life-changing, like I just cried when I found her, because I felt like I couldn't find anyone around here that could help me with this severe diastasis that understood CrossFit. And so it was great. It was amazing. And then at 18 months out, I was still being very protective and not getting back to things yet, because I had been so traumatized with what had happened and my stomach and worried now. And
well, even trying to find a PT that understood and didn't tell you to stop CrossFit in that time, because that's like what year at this point?
Yeah, so that was in 2016.
Yeah, I mean that's still like oil and water at that point with PT and a PT and CrossFit.
I mean, I was scared I was going to have to drive. I was going to fly to Chicago. I mean, and then I was trying to think, do I bring my baby with me? Do I pump? I mean, this is where I was at. I was like, I need someone, because what happened is I flew Bree in for a seminar actually at my gym. She felt my stomach and she's like, you need better help. The help you're getting is not. And she had such a poker face. We still laugh about it to this day, because I think she was scared shitless. Just like,
I've done that before.
Poker face, right? So I find Nancy, which is amazing. And thanks to somebody else her business partner, Renee, she was seeing her, who's like 3 hours north of me. So I was going to actually drive 3 hours north.
Wow.
To Renee, she's like, well, my business partner's in Ann Arbor, just 20 minutes from me. So that's how I found her.
Gotcha.
So that was great. But at 18 months, Bree's like, Lisa, you also need to like stop modifying some of this stuff. You're 18 months, like da da da. She's like, I need you to do a consult with this guy, Anthony Lowe, because she had went to his female athlete like months back, right?
Yeah.
She kind of was like, Lisa, you gotta. So then Nancy, my friend Katie, who's also now a PT and also a pregnancy and postpartum athleticism coach, and myself were all at the gym. They 8 Mile let me in the gym.
Yeah.
With the phone, with Anthony, 2 hours long. And it was he just stripping away, like getting me back to GHDs and muscle-ups and like hollow holds and all the things I was scared of doing, showing me it was okay, the way my diastasis is, my strength, everything I've done up to this point, all the rehab, that it's time to just fly free.
And just for a reference point, like if somebody had to measure width, because a lot of people are like, oh, what's your width? Like yours was substantial, right? Like
it was like this before I straight out of like, closer to birth, it was probably like, like
8 fingers. Yeah. I've seen that once in my career, and it was after a first delivery, and during her second pregnancy, I swear that kid was coming right out through the center. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah. That's how I felt my second pregnancy.
Oh, too. I bet.
Like, oh man, like this is, it's like,
and at what point did you kind of make that decision of like, okay, now I can phase back, I can kind of do these things, but I'm going to make the leap and get this surgically addressed? Yeah,
I felt like going into my second pregnancy at that point, because at first when someone had said to me, oh, like my OB was like, I've had clients like this and they just got a tummy tuck, I was devastated. I was I mean, it was like, I was not okay with that. I was like, oh, But as time rolled on and I was processing and learning more and just like also feeling more empowered in like what I could do. And then I calmed down a little bit, and then I realized, wait a second, I'm a surgical candidate. Like
Yeah.
this is a reality, right? So going into my second pregnancy, I pretty much knew, okay, this is probably what I'm going to go
Okay.
through, but this is a long time down the road. So let's try not to panic, which is
Yep.
not easy for me, but let's try not to panic. And one thing at a time, let's rehab first and get
Yeah.
strong, and then process who the surgeon might be and start processing all the surgery stuff. So
Yep.
um, it was perfect timing seeing Anthony about 18 months because I had a good amount of time to get strong.
Yep.
I didn't get the surgery till my youngest was 2.5.
Right.
And so that was a time I feel like in my life that is the most special because I not only felt better physically, I felt like I was helping people. I was using myself as a test case. Like I would just test things, take videos, see how I was doing, what I was doing,
Yeah.
what was going on. Anthony would be like, hey, do this, take a video. Okay, cool. Like it was
Yeah.
really, I felt like I was my own science experiment. I felt like I was helping people. I felt really strong. I felt the
Well,
best I
and
felt in years.
total props for I am not one to be able to do something and demo while I'm going through it. And kudos for you for like having the vulnerability to be processing and sharing simultaneously and being like, hey, this is just what's going on. And like, I don't know that I could do that. Quite honestly, I'd probably go in a whole process and come out later.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it was, yeah, looking back on it, it's pretty crazy.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, but but yeah,
So
I'm really grateful for it.
So for you, like now kind of like you knew nothing about diastasis, you were a teacher, you've literally changed your profession, you've learned this whole new thing, you're now teaching and part of your profession now and your business is educating moms through what you've done in surgery. Like, how does this change your outlook kind of on life as a postpartum athlete? Like when you first started to realize diastasis and what that meant and the fear and all that stuff, lack of information, compare that to where you sit now.
Yeah, I feel like, it's so funny. In the moment of all that, it was devastating. Like
Yeah.
all of it was just devastating until I started to feel better. And then I felt better with the diastasis. And then researching tummy tuck surgery was devastating and scary, right?
Yeah.
So it was just like, oh man. But I do feel like it's given me such a really good and healthy perspective on, not that I can understand what anybody is going through, because everybody's got their own story and their own person and their own body. And like I'm never
Right.
going to fully understand what it feels like to be somebody else. But in general, I feel like it's able to give me the perspective so I can talk people through things and
Yeah.
help them feel a lot better and more empowered in their journey. Because I know for myself, I used to be a competitive regional CrossFit athlete. Now, regionals back in 2012 isn't what it is
Yeah,
now.
but you're still badass. Like, let's call it what it is. Like, you were a badass American athlete, mom, all the things. Like,
So, I'm not discounting my great achievements, but I'm just making sure I put things in perspective too.
not
Um,
Annie. You're not a Thor's daughter.
Yeah, exactly. But in many ways, I'm 40 now. I was 30 back then. Like, I feel like I'm almost a better athlete in some ways in the way I move and the things because of everything I've been through.
Right.
It has made me a better athlete, both mentally and physically. And I feel like if you can, let's say, if you're working with a postpartum athlete that loves CrossFit in any way, shape, or form, or loves whatever fitness that they love, right? And it just in the moment seems like you've lost everything. It's gone. Now maybe you've got diastasis, all these things. But in reality, my favorite saying, slow is fast, right? Slow it down. Let's focus on certain things, rebuild in some different ways, especially if there is a diastasis. But you can get back and feel good, right? And
Yeah.
maybe even feel better, even with a diastasis, right?
Yeah.
And I think that is not a message that's out there. And I mean, it's life changing and it needs to be, right? And
Well,
so I
and
think that's because it's not just like, okay, let's do this core exercise. we need to do these things. Sure, I love doing that. And like I'm able to do that from my training and people I've worked with and my own stuff. But the biggest thing I think is getting through with someone's brain, right? Like
Yeah.
the psychology of it, because it's hard, right? And no, I'm not a therapist, but I do get
It comes across in there for sure. It
it,
definitely
right?
does. And I think for you, and that's where we kind of differ a little bit. Obviously, I'm not a games level athlete, but me coming into like I started CrossFit after having kids. I think my youngest was like 3 or 4 at the time. Um, I started with just like drinking from the fire hose and trying to learn moving forward. Where as you came from like literally the infancy of CrossFit, and you've got these movements and you like, okay, I got this unlocked. And then you almost have to start over again. But how much courage does it take to start over again, but finding a way to do it better so that you're sitting here 10 years later being like, yeah, actually, I'm pretty baller right now. I'm actually doing things far better than I ever did before.
Yep.
Plus all these other things. Like that's kind of amazing.
Yes. And it's hard to see that when you're in it.
Oh my gosh, yes. Yeah.
It's hard to see that when you're in it. It's really
Mentally, I
scary.
can't even imagine. It was probably pretty devastating to be functioning at that level. And then, you know, were there times that you questioned whether you would go back?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. It was yeah, it was, but I think what kept me going later in the journey when I still wasn't sure of things was, I was still progressing because
Yeah.
when I was working with Nancy, we were always progressing still. And so
Yeah.
that was something that really helps. If you're in a position where it's like, don't do these things, and then there's no progression and that's where also mentally can be really hard. So that is what women need. We need
So,
progressions, right?
so that brings us, so this is kind of how you and I got hooked up at the beginning of COVID, was with a mutual client that was given very basic things. It said, you can't do this because of pain and your body type. And that trainer, that coach was not equipped to help that. And she basically said to me, like, I'm stuck. I can't do anything. We were in COVID and we're like, hey, let's try this virtual option because you sure as heck you're not going to see this person in person anyway.
Right.
And then to your point, all of a sudden being able to open doors just because you had explored this yourself, you knew that there was a safe way to progress forward. Kind of walk me through this particular, like, how do you now take your experience and similar to the client that we were both working with, like, how do you take that and walk somebody through if they've literally been told, you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do this. And then they come to you and you're like, okay, so what are you going to do that's any different?
Yeah. I think the biggest thing I found with working with that client and some other people being a coach, right? I'm just a coach in quotes, right?
Yeah, I'm going to call bullshit on that one. That'll be the soundbite for this one. I'm calling bullshit.
Is first, I find many of those people, there isn't, this may be the first time that a professional or coach, because obviously in your case, like you listen to this client, right? But sometimes, like people, I will be the first person that will really actually listen to
Yeah.
them and their story and what's going on, like really listen to what their goals are and what is important to them because everybody's different. And so you start with that, and then I'm able to build trust with them because they can see I'm actually listening. And then once they we test out some movements, and the way that I do it was we're testing things, right?
Yeah.
We're making them feel safe. So they trust me, and then they feel safe when they're moving with me. And that opens up an entire world of options.
Yeah.
And it sounds simple, but I found with any postpartum client, with if they've got pain or they have symptoms or they've got a myriad of things, right? Being creative and getting them to move in different ways and building a true trust with them after they've kind of been through the ringer, maybe of people either not getting help or just not feeling like they were heard. Like that particular client would have pain, but then her form looked great.
Yeah.
So nothing would change in the gym, and then didn't feel comfortable saying anything. And so, okay, the form looks good, so we're going to move on. Well, you can have beautiful form and have tons of pain.
Yep.
So, getting to the bottom of that, making sure they're being very honest with you and how they're feeling as you're testing things. Something I got from Anthony that I love is the better, worse, or the same.
Yeah.
So that way they're telling you honestly instead of they want to please you, right?
Yes.
And so really getting to the bottom of that. And so I think those are the differences as like that's changed me as a coach. When looking at the person in front of me and really trying to get to the bottom of what they need.
Yeah. And that's why I call bullshit on the just a coach thing, because no, I mean, I wish more people in my field did that.
Yeah.
And that's why, just getting such a good postpartum team together that will listen to you. You don't feel judged. You don't feel like it's like an authoritarian sort of thing that you feel like you have to please somebody. It's collaborative. Like, give me this information, I will give you a tweak, then feedback and back and forth. And so you say test, I say play. Like, it's the same thing. It's like, all right, let's try this and see what happens. Because you and I don't know what the answer is, but with that information, we can work it out together. Yeah. And I think that particular situation with us, it was just such divine timing. Thank you, COVID, for being like, okay, people are open to doing telehealth right now. We're doing video. I can now put somebody in the state of Virginia in your, Michigan space. And now this person has access to an awesome like set of eyes and mind and just supportive relationship. So, but again, like, I think it's because you know what it feels like to not be listened to. You know what it feels like to question yourself and wonder. And I think there's so much value to having gone through that yourself and being able to pull that forward into your coaching. So that was just a great experience. How many times a week do people DM you and they're like, how bad is my diastasis and should I get surgery?
Oh my gosh.
Just out of curiosity.
People really, they're like, what should I do? How do I know if I need surgery?
Yeah.
They just, and it makes me sad because I'm like, I can't tell you that in a DM, right? Like,
right.
But but at the same time, I always remind myself, like, I used to be that panicked, crying, freaking out person that didn't know. So I get it. They're just desperate. And I hate it. It makes me so sad. Like, and I hate that they don't have someone problem solving and thinking outside of the box. Like Brianna talks a lot about this with her pregnancy and postpartum athleticism coaches. Like you need to, it's not about just breathing a certain way. It's a critical thinking strategy. You are a coach. You're looking at this person, like you're tweaking things, like there's nuance, there's all these things, right? Like it's an art.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't do that in a DM, right?
But so what do you say? Like, what do you say?
So if there's more tangible question, I'll answer it. I'll try to give them something. But in general, I will tell them, for the most part, I'll say, it sounds like you haven't exhausted all of your options to get stronger, because many times that is what the problem is they haven't fully reached their athletic potential with the diastasis that they have. So that's what we want to do first before we jump into surgery. Ideally, you don't have to, but ideally that's what you want to do. So then I will suggest, we could do a consult, or we could work together, or I could find someone in your area possibly, or whatever. Right. But like, that's really step number one. Mm-hmm. And then from there, if you decide to have surgery, then you're going to make that choice from a much more empowered position, feeling less desperate. You can take your time, find the right surgeon, the right scenario, where you feel like you are in more control, right?
Yeah.
And
Of that group, like how many of those that like just get in contact with you, how many of those it's just very mild and really they just need to strengthen and they just are freaked out? Like that's my situation here. Like my big joke is it's diastasis is the gateway diagnosis. Like 98% of the DMV thinks that they have it and don't, but they also happen to have leakage and prolapse. And like at least it gets you in the door and we can actually treat the things that actually are a
yeah,
problem.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting because I've worked with a lot of people and like, it's funny because it's kind of funny when people have a mild case and they're freaking out to me, but I'm also very glad that they came to me and I never make
Right.
them feel, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, I do.
but sometimes I'm just kind of like, oh my gosh, but it's all relative and I understand. But the people with the more severe cases do find me because I've posted my belly everywhere and
Right.
they'll be like, oh my gosh, I've never seen anyone like me. I said, I promise there are people out there
Yes.
because they all have found me and there's more
Right.
than you think, right? But yes, a lot of people have those mild cases. But this is where it gets messy with the surgery because you may look at someone and say, they look great, but they might want surgery for aesthetic reasons. And so
Yeah.
that's where I still want to make sure to empower women and understand about the surgery, what they're getting into, not scare them, but also make sure they understand
Right.
that recovery is not easy.
Yes.
That
That's
they can
such an important message. It at least in this area, most of the surgeons doing it are in plastics and are not like the people that are seeking rehab are doing it of their own accord. And, when they tell their provider, the provider's like, oh, you don't need that. And it's like, and having real-time ultrasound is fantastic because I can see these women like very early on post-op. But like I think the first time, even as a provider, that you see just the enormity of the incision site, like it's major surgery. How can you not think that that shouldn't have rehab? Like,
know.
and chances are you've got a couple of kids at home that you've got to take care of who could care less. I mean, you obviously know this.
Yeah, yeah, it's
Um,
crazy. Well, and that's why Munira and I have, we've got this whole tummy tuck rehab project, man, because I always say it's like we think postpartum's a shit show. This
yes.
is 80 times worse. I mean, I
Yes,
can't even
I
tell you.
would probably
It's
agree with
in
you.
the fact that it's major surgery. You have this huge incision. Your muscles are literally in a different position in your body, but no rehab. Just go back to doing what you were
Yeah,
doing. I mean, it's like,
right?
yeah, I mean, you have to laugh, but it's not really funny at
No,
all.
it's not at all. It's ridiculous is what it is, like and if it was a dude, they would have had rehabs.
Yep, yep.
Funny, not
Oh,
funny.
yes. So, but
Yeah, so tell me a little bit about, tell me a little bit about what tummy tuck rehab is.
yeah, so I started realizing once I felt like I had my own stomach and life under control, I realized this is my next calling. Like,
Yeah,
it's time. Like, because this is an even weirder, like, thing that nobody talks about. And there's, no PT and no anything. And Nancy watched my surgery,
yes.
which was like the best thing for her and the best thing for me. And she's at her own practice now, but at the time she worked at U of M. So
Mhm.
luckily, she was already cleared and, it
Yep.
worked out because they're very picky there. It's University of Michigan. It's not, it's a hospital. It's a big deal.
They don't let everybody in.
So, but she got to watch, but they were all confused. Like, you're a PT? Why are you watching the surgery?
Oh my
Like,
gosh.
everybody was confused in there. And Nancy and I were like, because she's my client and she wants to get back to working out and I want to see what you're doing and understand the surgery.
This is gonna turn into a muscle up, and I need to understand some things. Do you know what a muscle up is? No, you don't. She'll show you as soon as she's done with the surgery.
Oh man. I mean, yeah. And my surgeon's amazing. And, he was all about, working with her after, and he understood
That's
CrossFit
great.
and all of that stuff. But he even said, he's like, there's nothing out there. And I had emailed him like, are there research articles or anything you could give us? Cause we're working on this program. And he's like, not really. He's like, well, when you're done with your program, let me know. Cause I'd love to share
Right?
it. And so Munera is Miss Research. I mean, she's the best ever because she loves reading that stuff.
Her diastasis course, like the quantity of information in there for providers is kind of mind-blowing.
Yes. So we're a really good team because we've got both ends of this kind of thing covered.
You do. You're a great team.
So we're really excited. We're very passionate about, we're trying to get out on social media some tips and things and help people because yes, it's about, the first thing that'll be out will be the core rehab portion. And then we're going to, we'll have a survival guide that's just general, like preparing for surgery type thing. And then we're going to have return to fitness.
Awesome.
Strength and conditioning style, right? CrossFit-y, but not just CrossFit, right? But just general strength and conditioning, which I'm really excited about, obviously. But the core stuff is, we're almost done with just all the exercises, and it's just so good. I'm so excited.
Yeah, what's the timeline on this? When is this all?
Well, we're gonna start filming hopefully in the next couple weeks. So then we'll have to edit everything. I'm the hang up because I've got kids and crazy schedules. My fault, guys, if it's late, later than we say.
So fingers crossed, summer 2022, hopefully.
So, but soon. I mean, probably soon. We're hoping by the end of this year at the latest, but
awesome.
Maybe sooner. So
awesome. But yeah, you guys have great resources, even just on, I'm going to post your Instagram early here, just so if you're looking for resources, what we're talking about is Tummy Tuck Rehab, and you can find them on Instagram, and then you can find Lisa at lisa.marie.ryan.
And it's about, yes, we want the rehab, like that's what we're all about. Like, here's some rehab things you can do. I do a lot of like one-to-one coaching consults with women after surgery to kind of get them go, like, where do I go? What strategies? Like, I love doing that with people. I do some programming for people, all kinds of things myself individually that I love doing. But it's not just the physical rehab. It's also, this is a mental mind F, this surgery. Because
you can say fuck, it's okay.
It is 100%. If there's anything more of a mind fuck, I don't know, but this is it. Like, because you have this new stomach that you pay a lot of money for, and you're expecting it to look this certain way, and it's just, and they're not being told about the swelling that can last so long. The fact that you're still bloating because you're a human, and you might bloat in different areas, and it might look kind of weird because, and it's, again, like you said, it's not their fault. Nobody's talking about the reality. You're just seeing pictures of beautiful bellies. You wake up in the morning, you eat, you poop, you take a picture, and you look great. Like, that's not how you live all day, all running around. You've got stretch marks left, possibly. I do.
Your belly button moved.
They're just moved. And then some of them are off. You've got a huge scar. Your belly button is going to look different. And that's kind of a weird thing that people get kind of like, this is strange. And I could go on, but people don't understand the psychological parts to this, along with they're not fully educated about how hard physical recovery can be. Some people do pretty well with it, but it totally depends.
Yeah.
I was super fit and healthy and eating good food, and my recovery sucked. I didn't have any issues. I didn't have any infections, thank goodness. But like the pain and the being hunched over and getting back to exercises, it took me a long time.
Yeah.
And that it just is what it is. Some people have it worse than me. Some people have it easier than me. And there's not always a way to predict that. Everyone always asks me, well, if I'm doing this, I said, there is no way to know. And even my surgeon said, it could be 4 days or 4 months. He said, I can't tell you.
So you've got to mentally be prepared for that uncertainty. And you can do, it's almost like birth. It's like, you can know all the things, know all the right people, think you've got it all worked out. And you kind of are just at the mercy of whatever's going on sometimes.
Yeah. And it's just the whole, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 12. There's different regulations depending on how the surgery's done. I'm not going to get into intricacies. If you guys want to know that, you can follow and we don't have a ton of research on it. Munera's found some things, and we're talking about it.
Yeah.
The biggest thing, and I'll just say this to get it out there, is to take your time and really find a surgeon you trust. It's very tricky. Plastic surgery is very, very tricky. And,
Yep.
surgeons don't always have the best personalities. So you have to navigate how much of that is okay if they're a really good surgeon, but you need to be able to communicate. You need to be able to communicate enough. There's different ways the surgery is done. You can get too hung up on that, but then also you do need to have some awareness. But it really boils down to, you'll go crazy if you're trying to find the right way to have the surgery done.
Yeah.
You have to find the right surgeon, and it might take
time. And the decision that you're at peace with, no matter what the outcome is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And your belly might not look like the pictures you see because it's your belly. It's not that person's belly, even though it's a surgeon.
Yeah. Wow. That's a lot to process. I'm so glad that you're in this space and like able, I mean, again, it takes so much courage to share as you're going through it, because it could go horribly wrong. All right. One last question. For you, what did it mean to be active as a postpartum mom before you had the boys? And what does that mean to you now that you are one and have been one for a while?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I feel like I'm going to cry a little bit because I just.
It's okay.
It's all good. When I was pregnant with Chase, my first son, I have two sons, and it was all about what could I still do at how many months, because I was scared I was going to lose my handstand push-ups and lose my muscle ups and lose all these things. None of that happens. And then how fast I could come back, right? Postpartum, because I was like, can I still do a push-up? Can I still do this? I even at the start, when I was clueless about my stomach and had extra weight on me, I did start to see, all this stuff's coming back just fine, And I think back to what I was doing before I knew I had a diastasis.
Yeah.
I was doing a lot of stuff, and I was okay, right?
Right.
So, but looking back at all that, the enjoyment factor wasn't as much as it is now, because there's always a little bit of panic or worry or, just expectations, like all these things that took the joy out of it. That makes me sad, because my pregnancy with my second was totally different. I wasn't as panicked, and I enjoyed it, and I had more education, and same thing with postpartum. Same thing with coming back from tummy tuck surgery. But in general, throughout all the ups and downs of two babies and a tummy tuck surgery, I have never in my life felt more grateful. Every single day I walk into the gym and can just work out and not think about my stomach, not think about anything, right?
You're going to make me cry.
Literally every day I walk in across the room, and it's literally every day I think about it, and I'm like so grateful. And something's hurting, my lungs hurt, this workout sucks, but like every day I'm like, I'm so grateful. And it's like I wouldn't have that gratitude if I didn't go through the ups and downs. And it's made me a better athlete. It's made me be able to push harder sometimes.
Yeah.
And it's made me have more fun with my fitness than I ever have in my entire life. So that's what I want moms to know. Like, that is there for you. Like,
oh man, that's a mic drop. That's a mic drop right there. I love that. And again, for you to have gone through this and, literally change your whole career trajectory and move forward to try and help other moms is just incredible. And you're just an absolute blessing to be out in the world, in the space. So thank you so much for sharing your story, sharing what you do. If you want to find more about Lisa, definitely hit her up on the DMs over on Instagram. She's lisa.maria.ryan. And check out Tummy Tuck Rehab, hopefully coming summer, fall 2022. That would be awesome. Thank you, Lisa. As always, one of these days we will meet in person, and I will give you a big fat hug.
Oh my gosh. That's great. Thank you.
All right. Thanks so much.